Good morning, traders. Welcome to this week's Elliott Wave Forex and Cryptocurrency Market Analysis webinar. I hope you are all doing well and you've had a great week. Let's get started with our analysis. If you'd like to contact us, you can do so by going to our YouTube channels. Under the description of all the videos on our YouTube channels, you'll find our contact details. We have just concluded our live 10-day course last Friday. So the next course is going to be in September. It's going to be from the 6th of September. So if you'd like to access that course, you can purchase the course on our website, link under the description. As soon as you purchase the course, you will get the full recorded 10-day course. That means you can get to watch the course before the live one in September. So that means in September, you would have already watched the course and you can engage, and we can spend 10 days looking at the strategy and the structure of the chart. So essentially, the live session will be for engagement so that you are able to ask questions of the concepts that you will not have understood watching the recorded course. So those are the rest of our contact details. Our link to the website as well as our social media pages. Do follow us on our social media pages. We post a lot of charts daily. You will find that our Twitter feed is on the home page. Now, I would like to refer you also to our news blog, tab. This is actually a blog tab, so check out our new blog. We've just posted a very interesting blog on the website. It will be worth your read. So that is a longevity in trading financial market. So have a look at that and just take a read on that. It will be very interesting to look at. All right, so let's get started with this week's analysis. The theme this week is the yen pairs. So the yen pairs are at critical levels. I know I usually start with the US dollar pairs, but today I want to start with the yen pairs because there's something very interesting on the yen pairs, and I'm going to show you the weekly chart of all the yen pairs. So let's go through that and start with the trade recap. So I want to refer you to this chart here. This is a US dollar yen chart that we have forecasted from around this area. So we wanted this to be a diagonal in wave 1 and then wave 2. So this has been coming down in 3 waves as forecasted, as you'll see with the next chart. So we've already got that move. Now the question is, are we going to get to this level? We are not at that level yet. Let's make a full screen here so you can see the structure clearly. So this was the forecast on US dollar yen. Okay, so the US dollar yen, this is the move here. This is the diagonal that we saw here as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an overshooting wave 5 here in the blue degree. Now we are focused that we're going to have 3 wave structure. We already have 1, we already have 2. We are now coming down with this one here. So the next chart is showing us what we're forecasting on US dollar yen. So this is the structure. It has already played out. We already have our move from right at the top. We already have our pullback. Now we're expecting a bit more downside to around. Let's just focus here so you can see the numbers here. So to around 108 area. So that is where we're looking at on US dollar yen. Okay, so that's the forecast. Now we are at critical areas on all the yen pairs. Let's go through all of them. So let's start with pound yen. So pound yen, we have been looking for this to be a 3-wave structure. So last week, if you remember the chart last week, we expected that pound yen was going to make a bounce like this. It was going to make a bounce and we were going to have a structure like this. Let's have a look at the structure. We're going to have a structure here like this, a move down here, a 3-wave structure here, and a move to the downside. All we got here was simply this pullback here. Could this mean that pound yen would have completed its move to the upside? Now I want to refer you to the weekly chart here. Let's go to the weekly chart on pound yen. So let's go to the website and look at the weekly chart on the yen pairs and the members yen pairs. So the move to the upside on the yen pairs may have ended. Okay, you see that. So this is where we are currently with pound yen. We are currently at this critical level. We're currently at this pullback. Now, the question is, with this pullback, are we still going to make this push to the upside, or have we reached the end of the move? Because this is where we are. We may have reached the end of the move at 156.71. That has always been our focus, to get to 56.71 and then make a drop. Now we are at critical levels, and you'll see that all the yen pairs are at that level. Let's have a look here now. Now with this, are we going to get a bounce to the upside? As it is now, we are going to get a move. The next immediate move that we're going to get here on pound yen is a move back to this level. We're going to get a move back down to this level. So this is the area. We're going to get a move to around this level. Now that move will mean that we've got an A, we've got a B, and we've got a C structure here as follows. Okay. Now, if we get a bounce here like that, and we start continuation to the downside, that means this would have ended the move. So for now, we're going to trade this back to this level, and we're going to look at the structure around this level. Let's go through all the yen pairs, so you'll see that. So we've already gone through US dollar yen. So you've seen what we're expecting here. We already have the three-wave structure here as follows, and we are expecting this to come to the downside. So in the next week, expect US dollar yen to at least come back down from 110 to about 109.50 to around this level. If we don't make a bounce here, we're going to make a structure like this in a straight line, three-wave structure like that, and then we bounce. Okay, so either that or we just get this one bouncing here first and still make a move to the downside. That will just simply mean that we've made a flat correction before we get the bounce to the upside. So that is the focus. We're focusing downside on all the yen pairs for the short term, or at least for the next coming week. Expect some downside on the yen pairs. Euro yen. Again, here I'm going to refer you to the weekly chart. For now, euro yen, we also expected a similar bounce to pound. We only got half of the bounce, up to 50%, and then we came back down. Now, again, here, the structure here may be a three-wave structure with this B wave looking pretty sharp, but you can see that we've got 5 waves here. We've got a pullback here, which is not a clear three-wave, but you can see that the last C degree is a clear 5 waves. So it is likely that we just push to the downside in the next week. So we just get this one here coming down slightly to the downside. So let's watch the yen pairs for continuation to the downside. So this is what we've been trading over the last 2 weeks on the yen pairs. So if you look at the analysis that we did last time, was that this was going to drop back to this level. We've dropped back to this level, but we also expected this. So that means the third move did not happen. So we are still looking for this one to continue slightly lower on euro yen. Now, back to the weekly chart on euro yen, so you can see where that is coming from. So the weekly chart on euro yen, if you look at this structure, similar to what you have on pound yen, this has not necessarily completed the move to the upside. So we've got the 5-wave structure here, we've got the 3-wave structure here. So euro yen could still push to the upside, with this being another 5-wave structure as follows: 1, 2, 3. This pullback and push to the upside. Now the question is, are we going to get a deeper pullback here, similar to what we're expecting? Is if pound yen has completed its move, that means we are going to get a deeper pullback on euro. So we just have to watch these current levels on euro yen. So if we keep getting continuation patterns to the downside here, and we get confirmation for more downside, that means that structure is going to give us a pullback, at least back to the 50%. Where's the 50%? Let's just go back to the weekly here, so you can see where the 50% is on the euro. So if pound yen starts a move to the downside, this will get back to the 50%, around 126, 123 level, like that. Okay, so similarly on CHF yen. CHF yen is pretty interesting because, like pound yen, it has completed its move. I'm starting with a weekly chart here. So we've got a pulsing move to the downside. We've got here a pullback in 3 waves. If you look at that 3-wave structure here, this is where we are. And it will not be surprising to see CHF yen start a move to the downside. We are currently here. Now, pound yen is confirming that we may have ended the move. CHF yen is also confirming that we may have ended the move. Euro yen, not necessarily. So we will look here at this structure. If you look at the daily chart on this, very likely that we're going to see some downside. Okay, so let's have a look here on the daily. Remember here, I'm only showing you the structure. I'm not showing you what the indicator is showing us. So structurally, on CHF yen, we may get these pushing to the downside here on the daily, bouncing back up here, but we still see this to the downside. Okay, and that downside could be a long-term downside on CHF yen. So let's watch where we are currently On the 4 hour, we are still looking more downside here. If we go to the 4 hour, you'll still see more downside on CHF yen. So at least back to this level, we should see CHF yen come around this level, back to this level here. Okay, at least for the next coming week, let's see if we get a bounce here and continuation to the downside. That is CHF yen, CAD yen, very interesting structures on the pound pairs. So we are seeing continuation to the downside on the 4 hour in the lower degree, but why are we comfortable to see this as more downside? That's because the weekly may have also ended the move to the upside as follows. Let's go to the weekly chart as well. So I'm giving long-term views here so you can see. Look at this here. We've already started the move to the downside. We've got a very nice ABC flat corrective structure here. Are we starting the move to the downside? Now, as much as you can see, remember this is a bigger corrective structure. How do you get the entries? Because this, as much as it can come down here, can come down here, you can get a pullback of 200, 300 pips, and you can get a drop of 500, 700 pips. You can get pullbacks of 300, 400 pips. How do you handle this? How do you know when to enter to continue to the downside? Because most of you will not handle a 300 pip reversal. So you need to know when to hold this trade, where to take it to the downside if it is coming to the downside. This is where we are on the weekly on CAD yen. So in the lower degree, you can see this on the weekly chart. This looks like a simple impulse to the downside. In the lower degree on the 4 hour, this looks like a corrective structure, but there is no momentum to the upside. We are seeing more downside here. So that means that structure to the downside, or rather the structure to the upside may have completed and we're starting a move to the downside. So all we do is look for continuation patterns to the downside, but being mindful of these corrective structures. But these corrective structures are where we get our entries for more downside. Okay, so that is CAD yen. And let's go through the last two yen pairs, that is New Zealand as well as AUD. Okay, so let's have a look at New Zealand. So New Zealand is showing us downside. Last week, we saw New Zealand to be doing a 3-wave corrective structure here and look for a move to the downside here. So we are still expecting a move to the downside as well on the New Zealand. Again, let's go back to the weekly chart so we can see all the yen pairs. As I said, I'm going to show you all the weekly structures on the New Zealand. Right, so New Zealand has made a pulsing move here. So this is the orthodox low on the New Zealand. Okay, so that is the orthodox low. So if we're going to get a push to the downside, that will come back to about the 50% of the whole move. So we'll be waiting for it to get to around these levels before any bounce to the upside. So this is a weekly chart. So you can imagine this move is quite big from 70, current levels at 77 to about 67. That is over 1,000 pips for just that 50% pullback. Okay, so that is New Zealand, and we are looking in the lower degree for continuation to the downside. Okay, so let's have a look here. In the lower degree, this is the structure. We're going to see downside in the next coming week. Okay, so this structure here, 3 waves down here, this could be 3 waves, this could be another 3 waves, but we are still expecting this to continue to the downside. Keep an eye on that. So AUD yen, you can see lower degrees are showing us continuation to the downside. Bigger structures are even better. What we looked at here initially in the lower degree here, we're looking for this to be 3 down, 3 down, 3 up, and 3 down so that we can get a bounce to the upside. That move is still pretty valid. We have not invalidated it yet. We are just going to be taking smaller degrees, 1 wave at a time. For now, we're seeing continuation to the downside. Even if we do get a bounce, we've not got a confirmation for a reversal around these levels. For now, we're only getting confirmation for continuation to the downside. Once this structure is invalidated, then you can take long-term downside for a couple of 100 pips to the downside, at least for that 50% reversal as well. If you look at the weekly chart on the yen pairs, rather on AUD specifically, it has also made this big impulsive move. So if it's going to make a downside here, we're going to be getting only just to about 50% to 61% of the whole move. So let's see, are we going to get the drop on all the yen pairs? So that is the structure that you're looking at. You can see the weekly structures. They're all supporting at least a deeper pullback to the downside, or at least a complete reversal to the downside as far as pound yen is concerned. Right, so I want to go through the commodities because the commodities, and especially gold, this is inversely correlated to the yen pairs. So yen pairs dropping means upside on the commodities, but short term, what we're seeing on gold is that we're going to see more downside. So on gold, short term, we're at least going to see some downside here. Let's have a look here on gold. we're at least going to see a 3-wave pullback. So we've already made a passing move to the downside. We're going to see something like this here. We're going to see something like this here before a push to the upside, and then a drop here on gold. So if we're getting this upside on gold, that will be the drop that we're seeing on the yen pairs. So what we need to watch out for here on gold is this move here, at least back to this level here. If it's going to make a double, then it's even better, because that will mean that that is the clear inverse correlation between gold as well as the yen pairs. Okay, so that's what we have on gold. So we're expecting this to at least continue to the downside for the coming sessions before we get that bounce. Okay, so silver will be similar. We should go with gold. So this trade, we took it live in our trading room last week. So we just wanted this to confirm here. We wanted it to break lower. We got it breaking lower here. Now we're currently at this level. Will it bounce and give us this structure? Why would we expect that structure? Because this will be the low here. And if it is the low, we've got this one coming down here. There's a likelihood for a bounce. That bounce will mean yen pairs down as well, because there's the inverse correlation between the commodities as well as the yen pairs. So the bounce there will just mean that the yen pairs continues to drop. So then when they drop, then when silver continues to drop, then we should be getting the pullback on the yen pairs. This is where we are. We could actually continue to the downside here. So let's wait for data here. I'll be expecting a bit of a bounce there. That is silver platinum. Platinum was never going to go to the upside, as we have been looking at this structure. We've been looking at this to be making a 3-wave structure, A, B, C. Now platinum is looking downside. Let's see continuation patterns to the downside, at least back to around these levels, should continue even lower. Okay, Brent crude oil. Before I start with the US dollar pair, so Brent crude oil has made a 3-wave pullback here, has made another 3-wave pullback to the push to the upside here. We're actually expecting this to be the wave 4, and for Brent crude to go for that wave 5. So that simply means that the wave 4 is not complete as yet. So the wave 4 is going to play out as follows. So we expect a bit of a push to the downside. So that means wave 4 is not here, but would rather be here before we get that push to the upside. So expect more push, a pullback to the downside as far as oil is concerned in the next coming week. All right, now we can now go to the US dollar pairs. Let's start with the DXY. So the DXY has been making higher highs, but as much as it's making higher highs, the indicator, rather not the indicator, rather just the RSI has been showing us downside. So you look, just simply looking at this structure here, looks like we're getting an ending diagonal here. And the structure here is this 3 waves down, 3 waves up, 3 waves down, 3 waves up, 3 waves down, and 3 waves down. So what we were looking for here on the DXY is another 3 waves to the upside, another 3 waves back, and then a move to the upside. So we are still expecting this structure here on the DXY. Okay, we're still expecting this structure. As much as the DXY is pushing to the upside, and that is the current structure here, we are still pushing to the upside. You can look at the glaring divergence here that we are going to get at least a reaction, even if that reaction is in 3 waves here. So what will that mean? The structure will be a WXY corrective structure, and this WXY corrective structure is a wave 4 in the higher degree. Okay, it's a big wave 4, and we are looking for this to play out for the last wave 5 here. Okay, so that will be the structure that you're looking at on this. So that will mean that you'll have A, B, C to the upside, WXY here, and then A, B, C here, and then upside. Okay, so we're waiting for this pullback. We are still pushing to the upside, and the euro is also still pushing to the upside. So let's see here. We are going to push to the upside. Look at the divergence on the RSI. So the RSI is showing us divergence here. The divergence is still intact. You can see here we are making new highs here, but the RSI is making new lows. So we should get that reaction to the downside. Okay, we should get that reaction to the downside, even if we do push up higher, make a new high, and the RSI does not make a new high, and then we start getting that 3-wave pullback. Euro US dollar, same structure. Let's get the bigger structure. Okay, before I show you the bigger structure, let me just show you the divergence here on Euro US dollar. So Euro US dollar is making lower lows here, and here on the RSI we are making higher lows. Remember, divergence does not tell you where the reaction is going to be. It only simply tells you that it is imminent. Okay, it simply tells you that it is imminent. So as much as we can push to the downside with the euro, and that is our focus, that we're going to get another push to the downside. Last week, we expected this to possibly have completed so that we can get that three-wave structure that did not play out. So we are now seeing this as an ending diagonal, a possible ending diagonal that started with a wave 1 here and a 2 here, 3 here, 4. Then we're looking at this to be the lower diagonal here with 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 before we get the pullback here. That three-wave pullback that we're looking at, similar as on the DXY. So that is what we're going to expect here, a bit of a pullback here in 3 waves, at least back to the 50% or 38% of this before continuation to the downside. The structure will still be this, similar to what you have on the DXY. 3 waves down, 3 waves up, and 3 waves to the downside. Exactly the same structure that we're expecting. So that is Euro US dollar and the DXY looking very clear. All right, so let's go through the rest of the pairs here. Pound US dollar, last week we wanted to see this continue to the downside. I wanted to get a deeper correction here. I wanted this one to be a bit of a deeper one here so that we can get this one as a 3-wave structure. So that simply means that this is coming down in 5 waves and not in 3 as I was forecasting. So that means we're still going to continue to the downside, but in 5 waves to around this level. So we're still expecting pound to reach this level for this flat correction. Okay. So during our live trading room, we saw that corrective structure and we saw that downside. So we simply waited for this to continue to the downside when we saw the indication around this level. We also got this one as an entry coming to the downside. So we're still looking for more downside on pound US dollar. US dollar chief will obviously track the dollar index. So it is at a critical level at a point where this could actually be giving us the move to the downside here in 5, pullback in 3, and continuation to the downside here. Let's watch here on US dollar chief. We may be getting the drop here in the next coming sessions. Just wait for this to confirm, and then we'll be looking for this to drop. US dollar CAD. US dollar CAD still pushing to the upside. So since the reversal from the 1.2 area, we have been pushing up higher. We have not gotten a decent corrective structure and looks to be going up impulsively. So we should see continuation to the upside on this year. So in the lower degree, we may just get this one pulling back here and continue to the upside. Nothing new on US dollar CAD. We should see that continue to the upside. Okay. AUD US dollar. So AUD US dollar is at a critical level. We also expected this to start pushing to the upside last week because it is at a reversal area. So let's see if we're going to get a reaction from the current levels here to get a pullback here. So that is the current we're looking at that to be our blue box area and for a reaction. So we still have not gotten an impulsive move from the blue box. So we're still watching that. New Zealand, we have said that New Zealand does not look clean. It is not making a Elliott wave structure at current levels. This structure is not an Elliott wave structure. It is not an Elliott wave structure. It is not in any Elliott wave literature. So that's why we expect this to either continue to the blue box straight, or if it's not going to go down in a straight line, we're going to at least get a deeper pullback before we drop so that it makes 3 waves all around. Okay, so that is what we're looking at on New Zealand US dollar. So, and what we're going to be expecting for more in the next coming session. So in the next coming session, what we expect of New Zealand is continuation to the downside. So this could be the continuation that we're looking at here on New Zealand. This we expect continuation to the downside. So New Zealand should continue to drop in the next coming sessions. All right, so US dollar ZAR, we know that US dollar ZAR is correlated to US dollar CAD. Just one second. So US dollar ZAR is correlated to US dollar CAD. So we expect US dollar ZAR to continue to the upside after this 3-wave structure here. Okay, we'll expect this to bounce to the upside. All right, so that's what we have on US dollar ZAR. Right, so if you remember USD/ZAR, this move to the upside, we're not only looking at it now, we have been looking at this move from way back. If you remember, if you've been watching the webinars, let me just go back to the daily on USD/ZAR. So USD/ZAR, as it has been coming to the downside, when we were here, we expected USD/ZAR to give us a three-way structure like this. 1, 2, 3. And for this to come around this level and bounce. So when it made this move here, we thought that that was the one. Okay, so it didn't. So it was actually making a 11 swing sequence as follows. So when it made this bounce to the downside, we said we're gonna expect, these are the moves that we focused it, the move to the upside and the move down to 1350. We're expecting 1350, we dropped as low as 1340, but our forecast was at 1350, close enough. So we are now looking for USD/ZAR to make a continuation to the upside here. And the structure here is an 11 swing sequence as follows, which I'll show you just now. So as follows, and we're looking for this one to start making a bounce and track USD/CAD. So the structure here is W, X, Y, X, and the Z. And we expect this. If it's going to give us a pullback, we should see continuation to the upside, at least back to the 50%, which could be about 16, at about 16 against the US dollar. So that is what we're looking at on the USD/ZAR. We've already gone through the yen pairs, we've gone through the commodities. Now let's jump straight to the pound pairs. Now looking at the pound pairs, let me look at the structure here. So on this is still looking like a continuation to the upside. Let's look at the pound pairs here. Pound pairs. I've got pound CAD first. Rather, let's start with the sequence that we've got on the website. Let's have a look at pound CHF. Rather, pound CHF, what we're looking at here. So we've made a move to the upside. Let's just give you background first on pound CHF. Now, pound CHF on the daily. This is the structure on the daily on pound CHF. So as we indicated last week, if you get a bounce on pound CHF, does not mean a reversal. You can even get a bounce back to the blue box. But essentially what we are looking for on pound CHF is a continuation to the downside to simply make this ABC corrective structure that we've been showing for the last couple of weeks before we get any bounce to the upside. Okay, so where are we now currently? Let's look at the lower degree in the 4-hour. So currently on the 4-hour, so this was the trade that we showed last week that we took from here. That trade was not taken from here, it was taken from this blue box. Came down here, pulled back, dropped like that, straight to target spectacularly. We had a pullback. So when we had a pullback, we know that the pair is bearish. So we are not interested in these pullbacks. Let's switch off here. We're not interested in these pullbacks. So we've made an impulsive move. So likely what would happen here with the pound CHF, we've got a impulsive move to the downside again here. We could get this one pushing down here in another 3 waves like that. 1, 2. It will not be surprising to see pound CHF do this. You can get it pushing to the upside, but when it gets to around these levels, we'll be looking for a sell because that will be a continuation pattern. Remember, this chart is bearish, so any corrective structure for downside, especially on the 4-hour, we look to take it further down. So that could be a new trade setup on pound CHF. Okay, so just to show you now again that chart on the side. So this is the possible structure that we expect. This is a move, this is a pull move, and a move is possible to back to around those levels, but we will look to sell again. That is our pound CHF. Let's look at the rest. Pound AUD. Pound AUD, we're still looking for continuation to the upside. Last week, you saw how we forecasted pound AUD to push up from here. We are still pushing to the upside, still looking for continuation to the upside, looking at this bigger corrective structure here in this red W, X, and the Y here. So that is what we're looking at. So continuation to the upside on pound AUD. Pound New Zealand. So pound New Zealand, we're currently making this one. We've made this structure here. This was our chart of the week last week. We expected it to continue to the upside. We've got the pullback now. we've got the pullback. So there's likely change of structure here, which could play out as follows. This is just a possibility, so be mindful of this complex correction. Either way, we'll still push to the upside. We'll still look for this to go to the blue box. Okay, so that is pound New Zealand. Let's keep an eye on pound New Zealand. Pound CAD. Let's have a look at that. So pound CAD could continue to push to the upside. So last week we were here on pound CAD, short continuation to the upside here. We're still looking for this to push slightly higher. We could still come back down here at the end of this corrective structure. Right, so those are the pound pairs. Now let's go to the euro pairs. So just touch on the current structures on pound pairs. So that's where we are. Pound CAD could simply give us a 3-wave pullback and continuation to the upside. It's indicated there. We're still bullish. Pound AUD also showing continuation to the upside, and then we need to see a corrective structure there. Pound New Zealand could move slightly to the downside as follows. Give us a complex correction here as follows. Make a continuation to the downside before pushing to the upside. That's also a possibility. Let's watch that. Pound CHF looking for more downside, even if you get there's a possibility for this to give us this structure 1, 2, 3, and giving us this as 1, 2, 3. Right, so that is a pound CHF. Let's go through the euro pairs. So euro pairs, let's start with the euro pound. So this has been coming down pretty correctively, with this being the 3, this being the 3, now this being the 3. Likely the structure that we're expecting is to eventually get a bounce here and continue to the downside. There's another alternative, but I'm not going to go through that. We are more inclined for this structure here. A bit of a bounce, and then we're going to look for continuation to the downside. EURAUD. EURAUD, can't remember if it was during last week or during the live trading room, we had a setup here for more upside when this pulled back here. Okay, when this pulled back here last week, the forecast on the EURAUD was to get a bounce from here. That's how we got this. Now we've got a second one here with this pullback. Now we're looking for this to continue to the upside. Euro New Zealand, showing a slightly different structure. So even if Euro New Zealand does this, we can see that bounce, make a move, and to the upside. Eventually, what the move would have been this 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, and then we look for upside. Okay, so let's keep an eye here on Euro New Zealand. A bounce will just be a continuation pattern, and we'll see this one make a move to the downside. This will be a nice continuation pattern for more upside. All right, so that is Euro New Zealand. EURCAD, we also had a setup on EURCAD. Let's just go back here. I think we had this setup here during our sessions. Let's just have a look here. EURCAD, so this is the setup on EURCAD. So if you look at EURCAD, we expected that to give us a pullback in 3 waves as follows. We are currently around this level, so we're going to get a move back here and upside. Let's have a look at the next chart here on EURCAD, how that has played out. So EURCAD, we were expecting that we're going to push to the upside, pull back here in a zigzag format. Looks like we may just have a flat correction here as follows. May have a flat correction, come back down here, and then upside. Let's see how this plays out. So this is pretty impulsive, so we may not get the flat. We may just get this one pulling back and then continuation to the upside. That will mean that this structure here, this W here, and this will be the X here in the green degree. We'll update that structure. So let's watch that for the next coming sessions. All right, so that's EURCAD, the structure that we have forecasted there. EURJPY. Now, EURJPY, every time you get a pullback, you're going to get a decent one now. You're going to get a decent 3-wave pullback on EURJPY, and that decent pullback on EURJPY, you will be selling that. We're looking at long-term downside on EURJPY. Whether we get a setup on the 4-hour or the daily, we'll be looking for downside eventually. Okay, for now, a bounce is imminent. Could even get back to around those levels. So let's just keep an eye on that. We are only looking for sales. I'm not looking to buy EURJPY. Let's go to the crosses. The crosses are AUD New Zealand continues to drop. We focused on that from here. We only expected it to come to around this level. That level has been invalidated. Now, any pullback, look for this to continue to the downside. Okay, AUDCAD. So AUDCAD, expect this to continue. We've been looking for AUDCAD to complete this flat here and drop. Okay, we only got this and then started making a move to the upside again. We can still come back down here. So the next move here, so only expect this to come back down here because we can still push to the upside here and still make that flat correction. Okay, so that is AUDCAD, AUDCHF. AUDCHF, last week we were here with this pullback, expected this to drop. It is dropping down correctively, so it may not come down in a straight line. We may expect a bounce here and continuation to the downside. New Zealand CAD. We have reached the level that we wanted to reach on New Zealand CAD. Can we start dropping? I expect this to still continue to the upside because oil is still pulling back and we've got the CAD on the New Zealand. So expect a bit of a continuation to the upside there. New Zealand CHF. New Zealand CHF. This could start dropping to the downside with this pullback. So look for this to confirm downside. Use your own strategy. CADJPY, obviously with oil pulling back, CADJPY should show weakness. We're going to look for this to continue to the downside. We should continue to the downside. Not even a bounce here. We expect continuation to the downside. Let's go to the indices. Let me close here. Okay, let's go to the indices. The indices, you need to start being careful now because we've made significant moves. We've been on an uptrend for some time now. Let's have a look here on the indices. We've been on an uptrend for weeks now. You need to start being careful as much as we're still bullish. Right, so let's have a look at this structure here on the S&P 500. Currently, we're looking at this green degree to be the 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Now, looks like currently we are starting to pull back with this purple degree here. We've got a purple 1, 2, 3. The current pullback that you see, I'm going to show now on the live chart, is actually the 4th of the purple degree. Let's go to that structure here on the S&P 500. We're currently getting the pullback. This is the one here. So the current pullback could be the 4th of this purple degree here as follows. So look out for this here. You can get a bounce and one more up. Okay, so there is very strong divergence here. Very strong divergence. We can get one more up here before we get a pullback here. So be mindful of that. So we could even get a deeper correction. So we're at a critical level on the S&P 500. It is very risky to buy even if we do get a corrective structure. That corrective structure that we're seeing here, this pullback, it is not confirmed that we're going to get upside. The indicator is not showing us upside as it was here, at this current at this level. We want to see the full corrective structure build up. If it's going to do this and then we see upside, then we're going to take it up. As it is, we are not looking for upside. We're looking at least for a 3-wave down here. Okay, whether this is going to bounce, then we'll look at that when we get to around that level. So a bit of a move to the downside here on the S&P 500. The Dow Jones Industrial, we're looking for a trade from here to break out and push further up higher. But we are currently here at this structure, and that structure could result in this. This could be a flat here, one more down before we push to the upside. That's why it is critical here. So we need to see if this is going to drop here, that could lead the S&P 500. We're currently at this level. It will be making a flat. The S&P 500 will be making a 3-wave zigzag. The Nasdaq also giving us a deeper pullback. We've not had a deeper pullback for weeks. Since May, we have been on a bullish trend. So we should start seeing at least a bit of a move to the downside here on the Nasdaq. We need to see the corrective structure. UK 100. UK 100, we are going to see this structure. We've got a move down here. Got that. We're going to see this one come down here to around these levels. DAX. Let's have a look at the DAX. So the DAX is showing us a flat correction here, a complex flat correction here as follows. We're looking for this to have been the blue box and for this to push to the upside. So this was the blue box here. So this is where we got the DAX structure and then upside, but we never got this one pushing above 15,800. So what we are seeing here is this corrective structure here on the DAX. This looks like a complex flat correction here, push to the downside here and up and upside. So for now, short-term pullback. Right, so the Nikkei, we are still within this corrective structure here. Only when this corrective structure is completed will we see the Nikkei push to the upside. Okay, we're looking at this one to be the blue box with this being the three-wave structure, and for this to push to the upside simply means that this corrective structure is not done. We're still going to see one more upside before we get that. And lastly, Nifty. Okay, so Nifty has just broken out of these corrective structures. That simply means that we had these three waves on the Nifty. We've already started with the move to the upside as follows. Correction here. We're looking for this one to continue to the upside. So the Nifty still looking for more upside, unlike the other indices. That's all for this week, guys. Those that are interested in the crypto webinar, just look out on the channel for the crypto webinar. All right, so see you next Sunday, same time. If you like what we do, please drop us that like button. Also click the bell notification button so that you can get an alert the next time we upload a video. Also drop your comments. We appreciate your feedback and input. Have a great week, everybody. Trade responsibly. Cheers. Bye-bye.